who has lent a remarkable impact in the world of architecture and has earned himself a highly respected status. Koolhaas was born on 17 November 1944 in Rotterdam, Netherlands. Like most architects, he studied at the Architectural Association School of Architecture in London, but he was simply different. Koolhaas has always referred himself as a writer as much as an architect. He wrote numerous films and plays in the past and still writes books today. He is also the founding partner of the Office for Metropolitan Architecture, OMA, a leading architecture firm of modern architecture and design. With his team, Koolhaas revolutionized the art of urban living and earned his international recognition. He was also awarded the Pritzker Prize in the year 2000, which is the world's most anticipated award by architects worldwide.
From west to east, from residential houses to gigantic skyscrapers, Koolhaas has participated in multitudinous iconic projects. Koolhaas is sometimes even being referred as the world's best architect with his legendary masterpieces. There's the Netherlands Dance Theatre in Netherlands The Hague, 1987, which was defined as one of the first 9 buildings of the 20th century. The Nexus World Housing in Japan Fukuoka, 1991, being one of the most unique residential of its time, consisting of 24 individual houses packed together to form 2 blocks. The Congress Ball in France Lille, 1994, a magnificent building built to serve big trade events of international repute with its elegant exposition hall and auditorium. And the CCTV Headquarters in China, Beijing, 2002, breaking the law of physics. CCTV Headquarters poses a truly 3-dimensional experience with its impressive out-of-scale design.
Rem Koolhaas, a visionary architect whom has made a huge mark in the eyes of millions, inspired and ignited young talents worldwide. But what drew him into the limelight? What made him legendary? Maison Bordeaux, house in Bordeaux, also known as the Floating Box. The Floating Box is a Pritzker Prize award-winning and truly astonishing residence located in the land of love, France. Koolhaas is an architect that prioritizes the wants and needs of his client. His client said, "I do not want a simple house. I want a complex house because the house will define my world." The needs of his client fit Koolhaas' designing habits perfectly. Koolhaas went on to design a medieval castle-like house, where it has courtyard, secondary accommodation for guests and housekeeper, and accommodation for the client. When it comes to medieval castles, there are several unique characteristics: isolating walls, dungeons, extensive views, and loopholes. Koolhaas has identified the characteristics and implemented them into the Floating Box. To create the looks and feelings of the dungeon, Koolhaas used the slope of the hillside where the living level is stored above the courtyard but level with the grassy top of the hill. Lastly, Koolhaas has also adopted the idea of loopholes in ancient castles. On the uppermost floor, the entire level is made up of the thick concrete walls covered with small circular windows all over, giving the Floating Box a unique character.
When it comes to the Floating Box, it is known for its floating upper layer. Koolhaas knew that in order to bring this magnificent idea to life, he had to somehow come up with a really smart and out-of-the-box idea. At the end, OMA discovered that the best method is to use the architecture sleight of hand to make it appear as if the concrete box has no structural support. In fact, it was actually being supported by 3 different parts: the cylinder of the spiral staircase, an L-shaped piece of structure rising from the kitchen, and the staircase supports a large I-beam across the roof, from which the concrete box hangs. On top of that, the intermediate layer of the house is placed between 2 rectangular slabs and bordered by panels of glass and aluminium. This layer is entirely open to the landscape, making the floating box illusion more convincing. As for the interior, in order to create a space that best suits the clients, even the smallest things must be taken into consideration. Knowing that his client is suffering from movement deficiency, Koolhaas tailored the house just for him, making his life smooth and seamless. For instance, a platform is made movable like a lift to ease the movement of his client, but in a very modern and clean form factor. In fact, there are lots of movable parts in the house, like the circular windows, allowing smooth airflow, glass wall, curtains and lights to shade different parts of the interior, all to minimize the effort and to ease the life of the house owners. To make this happen, Koolhaas had to use the latest technology to date, but the outcome was indeed fulfilling. Rem Koolhaas is often described as a visionary, a philosopher. Critics have argued that Koolhaas ignores all consideration for beauty and taste and only focuses on being different. Even scholars have difficulties classifying him. Is Koolhaas a deconstructivist, modernist, or structuralist? Well, we believe that Rem Koolhaas is an extremely talented architect, and whether or not his work is deconstructive, modern, or structural, it will always continue to be amazed and adored by the eyes of millions. That is Rem Koolhaas.